Hey there and welcome. I am so incredibly glad you're joining us today because in this explainer, we're diving into something that, well, keeps a whole lot of us up at night, and that's getting out of debt. Think of me as your personal advisor today. We're going to walk together, moving from financial chaos to a totally balanced budget, and we'll be using some brilliant insights from Steve Green's book on financial health. And hey, I want to make one thing absolutely crystal clear right from the jump. There is zero room for judgment or guilt here, okay? We're just here to understand our behaviors and take our power back. So let's just get right into it.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to cover the leaky bathtub and new debt, the psychology of emotional spending, technical and physical shopping barriers, the 24-hour pause rule, healthy habits, and finally, identity shift. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the leaky bathtub and new debt.
Steve Green uses this completely brilliant metaphor, and it goes like this. You just can't empty a bathtub while the faucet is still on. Think about it. You could be bailing water and sweating all day, feeling like you're working so hard. But if that new water is still just pouring in, your efforts are basically wasted. And paying off debt is exactly the same thing when we're still putting new charges on our cards. You can use all the best budgeting methods in the world, but if that debt faucet is still running, your progress is going to stall out. And listen, that doesn't mean you're a failure. It literally just means that bailing water doesn't work until we reach up and turn off the tap. So here's the brutal truth we have to face. Your debt payoff strategy will stall entirely if you don't draw a hard line against new charges. This boundary step is your line in the sand. I know, it might feel a bit uncomfortable at first, but establishing this firm boundary is just so incredibly powerful. Without it, your debt is always going to act just like that leaky bathtub. Moving right along to Section 2, the psychology of emotional spending.
So why do we do it? Well, behavioral science points to something called present bias. Basically, that's our human tendency to prioritize immediate comfort right now over some future consequence later. This is exactly why a quick $50 purchase feels completely harmless today. The future interest cost, it's just too abstract for our brains to really process in the heat of the moment, while the relief of buying the thing is instant. And remember, this phenomenon doesn't mean you're irresponsible. It literally just proves that you're human.
I mean, nobody wakes up in the morning wanting to sabotage their financial future, right? It happens because of everyday, very human triggers. We're talking work stress, sheer exhaustion after a ridiculously long day, or social pressure when you're out with friends. The reality is, our willpower is flawed, and it naturally suffers from decision fatigue. The more tired we get, the easier it becomes to just justify convenience, even when it hits our wallets. So try this for me. Think back to your last 3 unplanned purchases and ask yourself, what underlying need was I actually trying to meet? Like, was it genuinely about acquiring that specific item, or were you just exhausted and desperate for a moment of relief? Understanding your own specific triggers, whether it's a sudden drop in mood or just a strong need for a reward, is absolutely crucial. It's the very first step to breaking that cycle. Let's get into the how-to with Section 3, technical and physical shopping barriers. Listen, we are not trying to magically increase your self-control here. Relying entirely on willpower is just a fast track to burnout. Instead, we're going to lean into the immense power of environment design. We're going to intentionally construct an environment around you that purposefully slows down impulsive behavior by adding in some really healthy friction. You see, digital payments are explicitly designed to be completely effortless. So we need to intentionally add that digital friction back into the mix. First, go ahead and remove your saved card info from your favorite online stores. Second, delete any of those dangerous one-click payment options. And third, just uninstall the shopping apps right off your phone. If you literally have to get up from the couch, find your wallet, and manually type in all 16 digits, you immediately give yourself the priceless gift of time to reflect on whether you actually need that item. And what about physical barriers? Now, implementing these isn't a punishment. Think of it as a protective wall. Freezing your card right in your banking app. Or, hey, literally freezing it in a block of ice in your freezer. Or maybe locking it in a drawer or leaving it at home. Doing this completely removes that exhausting mental gray area. If you can't access the card easily, you literally can't use it on a whim. End of discussion. This one simple act drastically reduces your mental load. Next up is Section 4, the 24-hour pause rule. Okay, so when temptation inevitably strikes, and it will, you're going to use the 24-hour rule.
This acts as a mandatory diagnostic waiting period for absolutely any non-essential purchase. Impulsive buying feeds off speed, right? It loves urgency. Forcing a 24-hour pause lets those intense, urgent emotions cool down and basically gives your logical brain the time it needs to catch up.
Because in the heat of the moment, buying that thing feels absolutely urgent. It feels necessary. But when you look at that exact same online shopping cart 24 hours later, the illusion totally breaks. The pause rule naturally filters out those stress-induced cravings from your genuine practical needs. Honestly, you're going to be amazed at how many urgent desires you completely forget about by the very next day.
Moving on to Section 5, healthy habits over constant shopping.
Now, here is a really crucial psychological truth we have to talk about. You cannot simply ban a coping mechanism without offering a replacement. If shopping has been your go-to method for stress relief, that deep human need for comfort is just going to find another potentially destructive outlet. That is, unless you actively shift that behavior to something else. You need a rescue plan. When the exhaustion or the anxiety hits, you need to turn to healthy substitutes. So what does that look like? Go for a short walk, journal out your thoughts, call a good friend, cook a really nice meal, or just blast your favorite music. You've got to redirect that urge into an activity that actually rewards you, emotionally and physically, without totally sabotaging your financial stability.
Finally, we arrive at Section 6, identity shift and your future well-being. This whole process, it brings us to a really profound identity shift. You know, most of us fall into debt as reactors. We act impulsively today and just promised ourselves we'll figure it out later. But by adding friction, by pausing, and by replacing those habits, you actively transition into a planner. You actually become someone who values long-term peace of mind way more than the fleeting, short-term thrill of a delivery box showing up at your front door. We really have to fundamentally reframe how we view these financial boundaries. They are absolutely not built on fear, and they aren't a punishment. They are acts of profound self-care. They form a reliable, steady system that's specifically designed to protect you on your most exhausted, imperfect days. It's a true, loving commitment to your future self. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to reflect on today. What does financial self-respect actually look like for you? By stepping back from those emotional impulses and setting healthy, protective boundaries, you are taking the absolute essential first step toward lasting financial wellness. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I will catch you next time.